Good afternoon, students. Welcome to the lecture of Real Analysis 2. In the last lecture, we have studied some basic prepositions and definitions which are essential for us to understand the major theory. The first we have seen is real number system, and we have studied the field axioms, or also called as algebraic properties of the field, right? Now this is just a definition of a field we have written. Then a next concept comes with extended real numbers. We know real numbers is defined as open interval minus infinity to plus infinity. Now we are going to enlarge this set by including both plus infinity and minus infinity. For whatever is this enlarged set, closed infinity to closed minus infinity to closed plus infinity is called as extended real number system. And whenever we were including minus infinity and plus infinity, we should define the operations on those. Here we have defined the operations x plus infinity, infinity, x minus infinity as minus infinity. And lastly, we have observed that the operation minus infinity, minus infinity is undefined, right? That the functions, those which are defined on extended real number system, are called as extended real valued functions. Coming to the important propositions on closed and open sets, we have seen intersection of finite collection of open set is open, intersection of arbitrary collection need not be open, union of any collection of open set is open, and these rest theorems which we have studied. And comes with the next important definition called as a covering. A collection C is the collection of sets over a set collection C of sets set to cover a set given set capital A if F is contained in union of all the sets in the collection curly C. Okay, so for this curly C, in other words, we can say this is covering of F. These are the examples I have illustrated, right? Then if every set in that collection is an open set, then the covering is called as an open covering. Similarly, if curly C contains finite number of sets, then curly C is called as finite covering of F. Then we have written the statement of Hine-Borel theorem. The Hine-Borel theorem tells us that whenever F be a bounded and closed and bounded set of real numbers, then each open covering has finite subcovering. Okay, each open covering has finite subcovering. This is what an illustration I told you, right? Next is an indexed subset. As the name suggests, this is going to be defined on index set. Okay, index set we have denoted with this ultra v actually, right? The indexed subset is actually a function defined on index set to subsets of x. Next comes with the definition of set function. Set function is actually a function defined on collection of sets to extended real number system. Then comes with the concept of algebra or Boolean algebra. Curly A of subsets of X is called as an algebra or Boolean algebra if it is closed under complementation and closed under finite union. As of we have studied De Morgan's laws in the first lecture, therefore from 1 and 2, if we apply De Morgan's law, it automatically tells us that the corresponding algebra is also closed under finite intersection. Here are the steps I have explained, right? And then we have seen some examples. If we take x to be a closed interval, if we take x to be the set ABC, then the corresponding power set will be an algebra because this will be closed under complementation and finite union. But every power set is an algebra. Similarly, this is also an example. Next comes with sigma algebra concept. In algebra, we have just stated that the corresponding algebra must be closed under complementation and finite union. If we just generalize the concept of closeness under countable union, right? From finite union to countable collection of union of countable collection, then the algebra is said to be sigma algebra. That is, an algebra of set is called sigma algebra. Now, whenever I am saying algebra, it comes with complementation property. Therefore, this is called a sigma algebra or Borel field if every union of countable collection of sets is in curly A itself, right? That is, from finite union, we were going to countable union. Okay, as of the remark, we have seen every finite algebra is sigma algebra because in finite set case, countable collection will be nothing but a finite collection, right? Now, similarly, every sigma algebra is algebra because in sigma algebra we were saying countable union is closeness of countable union. Therefore, if we are saying it is closed under countable union, it automatically tells us that it is closed under the finite union as well. We were discussing an example in the last lecture. If A1, A2, A3 is a countable partition of sets X, then let me just complete this example. Then the collection of all unions, the collection of all unions of sets in the partition including empty set, is sigma algebra. Okay, see what this example try to tell us. First, we'll try to understand what is the partition. Partition of an interval we have seen in Riemann integration theory. Now we were making the partition of a set, right? What is partition of a set? Partition of set is actually a grouping of elements into a non-empty subset such that every element is included in exactly one subset. Let me write here what is partition of set. Partition of set is grouping means we will just group the elements. This is a grouping of elements into non-empty sets. We cannot make an empty set in the partition. Non-empty subsets in such a way that every element is included in exactly one subset. Okay, that is, one element cannot appear in two different subsets. Okay, let me tell you a simple example. Suppose I am considering X to be a collection of elements starting from 1 to 10. Now I want to make the partition. How can we make the partition? Suppose I can make the partition 1 to 5 is one subset and then 6 to 10 is another subset. Therefore, first set I can write 1 to 5 and later I am writing 5 to 10. Then this is X equal to A1 union A2. Na? This is X equal to A1 union A2. Here I have done a grouping. Correct? What is the grouping I have done? A1 is 1 to 5 and A2 I am going to write as 6 to 10. This is one partition. Or one can make another partition. Suppose I can write A3 to be some odd numbers. That is 1, 3, 5, 7, 9. And what I will write? A4 to be even numbers. 2, 4, 6, 8 and 10. Now again one can observe every element in the set coming exactly in the one set only. Therefore again I can write X as A3 union A4. That what this actually are, these are the partitions of the sets. This is one partition, this is the another partition of the given set. Now here also we were making the partition of a given set. A1 into A3 are the countable partition of a set X. Then collection of all unions of sets in the partition including empty set is sigma algebra. That is, therefore if I write curly A, say curly A as a set to be phi and union AI. Union AI. Okay, what is this union AI? This will be collection of all unions. Whenever I am saying all unions, all possible countable unions we were considering. Therefore, if I define the set itself, this curly A to be itself, union AI. Therefore, may I say this will be closed under finite union? This will be closed under finite union. Empty set is already we have, therefore complementation property is going to satisfy. Therefore this is a good example of sigma algebra. Is that clear to everyone? A1, A2, A3 is the countable partition. We were considering collection of all unions including 5. Then this will be sigma algebra, because the set we have designed itself that it will cover or it will include countable union of the sets. It will include the countable union of the sets. Okay. Is the example of sigma algebra understood?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, or for the sake of your convenience, I can draw a line. Okay, suppose x under the consideration is closed 0 to open infinity. Okay, therefore here we will start with closed 0 and we are going towards infinity. Now what a1, a2, a3 I will select? A1, a2, a3 let me mark as the intervals. Say 0 to 1 is my first interval a1. This is 1, 2, 3 and so on. Therefore, A1 closed interval 1 to 2 is my A2 and A3 and so on. These will be the partitions of this set I am making, and all unions we have to include in this algebra. All unions, union AI I have to include in this. Therefore, surely this will be closed under countable union as well. Therefore, this will be a good example of sigma algebra. Okay. Now let us come to today's lecture. In today's lecture, we were going to introduce a major theory. Therefore, here we will start with unit number 1, Lebesgue measure. We will start with a first unit called as Lebesgue measure. Now, if we just look at the two words Lebesgue and measure, this Lebesgue is actually a name of a mathematician. He was a French mathematician. He was a French mathematician. Okay, and his full name is Henri Lebesgue, and his life tenure is 28th June 1875 to 26 July 1941. 1941. And what about the word major? If we just pronounce the word major, this is something to measure, na? Or one can say counting, okay, or measuring. These are the concepts we can understand by the word Lebesgue measure. As this concept was first introduced by a mathematician, Henri Lebesgue, it is called as Lebesgue measure. Therefore, measure on a set we were going to define, right? We were going to discuss the measure on set. Okay, now this measure on a set is a systematic way to assign a number which can be interpreted as a size. Size means either it is length or it is area or it is the volume. Therefore, measure is the concept of measure is the generalization of the concept length, area and volume, because length, area and volume are the restricted concepts. These are the restricted concepts. Therefore, measure is the generalization of these words. Therefore, we are going to define measure to be technically a function defined on set. We are going to define technically this is a function defined on sets. In measure theory, we are going to deal with sets only. Therefore, we will define measure to be a function on sets, okay, having non-negative real number value. Having non-negative real numbers or plus infinity. Right? Now let us see how it is the generalization. Actually, this measure theory was developed in successive stages during 19th and 20th century. This was developed, measure theory was developed in 19th and 20th century, and the mathematicians who have contributed to this measure theory are, first is Emile Borel, next Henri Lebesgue, as of we have discussed. Henri Lebesgue, and then John Randall and others. and others. There were many mathematicians. There were many mathematicians actually. Those were working on this major theory, and this was mainly developed in 19th and 20th century by these mathematicians and the others also. Okay, therefore Lebesgue major is named after French mathematician Henry Lebesgue, no doubt, and this is the standard way of assigning a major to subsets of an n-dimensional Euclidean space. Subsets of an n-dimensional Euclidean space. For n equal to 1, 2, 3, see n-dimensional space we are saying. Therefore, for n equal to 1, 2, 3, this concept coincides with length, area, and volume. Length, area, and volume. And in general, if we consider in n-dimension space, in general, in n-dimension space, we will call this as n-dimensional volume, n-dimensional volume, or volume, or n-volume. If we define this, if we generalize, okay. Therefore, Henry Lebesgue described this major, okay, in 1901. The year of defining this major is 1901, and he has defined this part. He has defined this definition as a part of his PhD dissertation. As a part of his PhD dissertation. Dissertation means thesis. Right now, means this major theory was a research work carried out by a mathematician Henry Lebesgue in his PhD study. In his PhD study. Is that okay? Therefore, the concept of length of an interval is generalized. Therefore, let me come to main aspect. Okay? The concept of length of interval is generalized because we cannot find out the length of an arbitrary set of real numbers, right? No? Is generalized to define major of set. To define major of set of real numbers. Major of set of real numbers. Okay. Now whatever is a finite interval we have said, length of finite interval I. What is the value? Yes, is defined as L of I is equals to say B minus A, where A and B are the endpoints of I. Correct na? Where A and B are endpoints of the interval I. Now, irrespective of whatever this I is, this I may be open, this I may be closed, this I may be semi-open, or it is semi-closed. For all types of intervals, we were using the same formula for calculating the length, that is L of I is B minus A. Now, we want to extend this notion of length to any set of real number. We want to extend this notion of length to any set of real numbers. We are familiar with only length of intervals, not for an arbitrary set. Now, therefore, we want to construct a set function. Now, what about this length? This is also a set function, no? Length of an interval. Whether it is set function or not, because we were finding the length of interval, and interval is no doubt a subset of real numbers, means interval itself is a set. Therefore, length defined on interval is a set function. Right? Therefore, what we would like to do, we would like to construct a set function, say small m. We want to construct a set function small m which assigns to each set a non-negative extended real value. Okay, before constructing such a function, what we will do? We will try to see the properties of length. Let us try to see the properties of length, because we have to follow all these properties in order to define the length of a set. In the properties of length of an interval I will write. Right now, properties of length of an interval. What is the first property? Length of I is always non-negative. Right? Length of I is always negative. Length is defined for any interval. Any I am saying. Finite or infinite both. What about length of an infinite interval? Suppose I am considering the interval.
Infinite.
Yes, it is infinite. If we consider close the 0 to open infinity, what will be a length? Infinity. Therefore, this length,
Infinity.
yes, the length is the concept defined for any interval. Correct, na? Length is defined for any interval. What is next? We have defined length of union of intervals. See what I am writing. Length of union of intervals. How we have defined it?
Summation of
Summation
which
of
is
Yes, this is summation of the length. Right now? Summation of the length. Okay. What is the next one we have seen? Translation invariant. Na?
yes, ma'am.
Length is translation invariant. What is the meaning of translation invariant?
after translation also it remains same.
The length remains. Suppose we have an interval I with us, and if we add a fixed point, say A, how this interval is being defined? Is it x plus A for all x in I? Okay. For example, let me explain. If I take an interval, say closed interval 1 to 2. This is my I under the consideration. I is closed interval 1 to 2, and let us add a fixed scalar 3 to every element of this I. Therefore, what will be a position? New position. 1 added by 3 is 4. 2 added by 3 is 5. What about the middle elements also? 1.1 added by 3 is 4.1. 1.5 added by 3 is 4.5. Therefore, this whatever is this new, I will call it as by I1C. Then what about length of both the intervals? Length of I is equals to length of I1, which is equals to 1 unit. Correct now? Therefore, this length is a notion, actually is a translation invariant. This is a translation invariant. These are the properties of length of an interval. Now our job is to construct a new function called as measure. Okay, we will denote it by small m. Length we have denoted with small n. Now we will denote measure by small m, and while defining the measure of an arbitrary set, we will take care of these four properties. Okay, therefore now what we want to do? Therefore, we would like to construct a set function m. Is it a set function? Na? Set function m which assigns to each set E a non-negative extended real number. Non-negative extended real number, which is denoted by, or which is defined on curly m. I am going to write. Okay, defined on curly m. What is curly m? Curly m is collection of sets. Defined on curly m and denoted by m of E. Okay, and called measure of E. Okay, therefore what this kind of function should be? Such that, or such a set function should satisfy that a function should have the properties. Should have the properties. Now let us look at the properties. Okay. Now the first property of length we have seen is non-negative, but here actually itself we were saying that this is a non-negative extent. This m assigns a non-negative real number to each set of the curly m. What kind of function we were defining? M we were defining on this curly m set 2. Non-negative extended real number system means what? This is R plus union infinity. Is that okay? R plus
Yes, ma'am.
union infinity. Non-negative including infinity. Okay. Therefore, what are the properties it should have? First, M of E is defined for any subset of R. Any subset of R. R is real number system. Right now, M is real numbers. Any subset of R means what should be my domain? Any subset of R. What should be my curly M? May I say this is power set of R? Any subset I am saying now. For this curly M should be a power set of. What is power set of R? Collection of all
subsets.
Good. So for this first property is this major should be defined for any subset. So what is my domain? Power set of R. What is the second property? If this set is an interval, what should be there? If that set under the consideration on which we were defining major, if this is an interval, then what it should give us? This should give us an length for an interval I. For an interval I, both the concepts should coincide. M of I is equals to length of I. That is, major should be a length in case of the subset is an interval. Major should be length in case the underlined set is an interval. Okay. Third property is M is translation invariant. Correct now? This is also one of the properties. M is translation invariant. What is the meaning? If we define the set E as E, if I write M of E, and what is E plus Y? For any set E, how should we define E plus Y under translation? This is X plus Y provided X is in E. And what is the meaning of translation invariant? M of E is equal to M of E plus Y. This is what one of the property of length we have studied now. Translation invariant. Here I should write actually length of an interval is equals to length of the interval I plus A. Right. But here we were writing measure of E is measure of E plus Y. And the fourth property is for any disjoint sequence. For any disjoint sequence En of subsets of R. En of subsets of R. How we have defined the length of union? How we have defined length of union of intervals? This is summation length of the individual interval, right now? Because similarly, we will try to define major as major of this union is summation n from 1 to infinity major of this En. And whatever this property we were writing, this is called as countable additivity. Name of this property is countable additivity. Is that okay? First property, major should be defined for any subset of R. Second, for an interval, major should coincide with length because this is a generalization of a length concept, right now. Third, major should be translation invariant. Fourth, major should be countably additive. That is, major of union is summation major of the respective sets. Is that okay? This is what major is extended. length is extended to major concept for an arbitrary set E. But when this major was introduced initially with these 4 conditions 1, 2, 3, 4 as an extension of length functions, mathematicians have observed that such a set function satisfying all these 4 properties do not exist. So what I'm saying, mathematicians after a study they have found that such a set function m which we have defined, okay, satisfying all these 4 property is not going to exist. Therefore, we have to relax one of the condition. We have to make one of the condition weak. Therefore, among the 4 condition, first condition is made weaker. Why it is made weaker? Because for all sets it is difficult to find out. But mathematicians have found after the study, for all subsets of R, it is somewhat difficult to find out such a set function M. Therefore, they have decided to weaker this first condition. That is, this measure should not be defined for any subset of R. This is defined for certain collection only. Okay. And what is that certain collection taken? The certain collection for which such a set function is defined was taken to be a sigma algebra. That is, for all the subsets of sigma algebra, we can define this. Okay, we can define this major function. Therefore, restricting this set function m not for the power set of R but to sigma algebra, mathematicians have defined a major function. Okay, let me just write unfortunately, such a set function satisfying 1 to 4, all the 4 properties, 1 to 4 conditions do not exist. Hence, we restrict the set power set of R, right? Na? Power set of R to sigma algebra. Means for all the sets of sigma algebra, the conditions holds good. Therefore, in order to study this measure in detail, the first measure introduced is outer measure. We first introduce outer measure. For the first measure under this study is a concept of outer measure. Okay. Now this outer measure was to define in such a way that this outer measure, if we find for an interval, right now, if we find it for an interval, the concept should coincide with length of an interval, and that was a challenging job for the mathematicians. And this was first defined by the mathematician Lebesgue. He has defined the first measure on arbitrary set of real number called as an outer measure. Now, what is outer measure? That we will study in the next lecture. Till that, if you have any difficulty in today's lecture, Introduction of Measure Theory, you can ask me. These are the properties of length I have written, concept of, and I have told you in detail how this length is being generalized to measure of an set. What is the difficulty? Length of an arbitrary set could not be defined. That's why a concept of measure came into the existence, measure of a set. Okay. Therefore, that measure should be defined in such a way that it should follow all the properties of length of an interval. Rather, this measure is a generalization of length that we have studied in today's lecture. In the next lecture, we will go for what is the definition of an outer measure with examples and its property. Let me stop for today. If you have any difficulties, you can ask. No difficulties from student side? Understood the concept or not? Measure theory.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, then let me stop for today. Thank you for being with me for this lecture.